Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host, Joe Tool and Love, here with your Impact Slammiversary 2021, review. Yes, you heard that right. Slammiversary. My first review of Impact Pro Wrestling ever. If you follow the podcast, you know that I mostly cover AEW as far as my pro wrestling side of the podcast, and along with NXT Takeover mixed in there. But even though I'm not a fan of Impact as I was or used to be, after viewing the card, after weeks and weeks of build up with some surprises that they were hinting at coming into the weeks, and last night turned out to be a pretty good card, and along with the main event obviously headlining Kenny Omega for Sami Callihan. Go over that and more, and the Forbidden Door is pretty much more open as ever, you can say, after watching what happened at Slammiversary. But again, thank you for joining me. If you like this video, be sure to click like and subscribe if you want to see more as far as my pro wrestling reviews, sports over topics, etc. But thank you. And with that said, let's get into the review now, shall we? So Slammiversary started off with Ultimate X. Now, for the X Division Championship, we had Josh Alexander champion defending against Pete Williams, Ace Austin, Chris Bay, Trey Miguel, and Rohit Raju. Now, when I was a avid fan of Impact TNA, one things I really enjoyed was Ultimate X, just because of the liveliness of it, of the fact that it was their own, match, the way it was really set the bar for the X Division in a way. So this was a bit nostalgia and for me, and seeing, because Pete Williams is part of that nostalgia for me. But of course, along with the rest of these competitors, because I still follow these competitors, obviously, Josh Alexander from the North, etc. But was a good match, a chaotic match as Ultimate X usually is. But this was so fun for what it was. So we had Tope Con Hero by Chris Bay to Alexander on the outside. Then a beautiful Hurricanrana by P. Williams from outside the ring to Chris Bay. And then Ace Austin and Rohit Raju were bowing up on the structured parts of the Ultimate X. And then in a beautiful motion spot, Ace Austin, he was kind of pushed off, thrown off by Raju, whichever you want to say. And he hit a beautiful moonsault on everyone else on the outside. So another good spot. Then Chris Bay, he was on the cables going for the X Division title, and he was speared off the top rope by Raju. Another good spot. Then Raju, he was having trouble getting on the cables on the top rope. So he had like a hook, like a rope kind of hook that he kind of used for his edge. And then one spot, he got to a chair on in the middle of the ring, and he tried to unhook the X Division title because it's set. And of course, if you watch Ultimate X, it's hooked in the middle, up high over the ring. So he tried to unhook it, and then Trey Miguel out of nowhere, off the top rope, he lands a missile drop kick to Raju, knocking him off the chair, and good spot out of nowhere. And then another crazy spot, which I'm glad worked because it could have worked, went hazardly. So Josh Alexander, he was going for the X Division title, while Pete Williams, he had, I believe, Miguel and a sharpshooter, and Alexander, he was hanging upside down off the cable, and then Austin, he had a choke on Williams, who was going for, or excuse me, it was craziness, but there was a choke applied to Williams, who was applying the sharpshooter, and then who was in a tangle with Bay, who was hanging upside down as well, who got an ankle lock applied to him by Alexander, who was hanging from the cables. So, very crazy spot there, but good spot nonetheless with the submissions. And then Raju, he used the chair. Beautiful chair shot by Raju, which knocked Alexander from the cables down to the ring. And then Austin, he was hung up on the cables, and Chris Bay hit a beautiful cutter, which took Austin off the cables. And then P. Williams, because it's Canadian, and of course it's his signature, he had a Canadian destroyer party on everyone. He also had an assisted destroyer off, I believe it was Alexander's shoulders. Someone's on Alexander's shoulders. I forgot who it was, but good spot. And then Alexander and Bay, they were exchanging in the middle of the cable structure, going after the X Division title. And then ultimately, Alexander unhooked the X Division Championship, fall down with the X Division Championship, and thus retains the X Division title in a solid open with Ultimate X. Another thing too is, with seeing WWE and how AEW have returned fans, this was Impact's return with fans they kind of did the usual thing with how AEW started with bringing back fans, where they had fans around the barricade, that kind of thing. So it wasn't a whole lot of fans, but it was fans back nonetheless. So then we had a backstage interview with Don Callis. It was, I believe, Gia Miller. I think that's her name. But he was outside Kenny Omega's dressing room. He explained how if it wasn't for Impact and if it wasn't for him, that Sami Callihan would still be a pizza boy or something like that. But more hype for the main event. So then we had Brian Myers and Tenile Dashwood, aka the former Kurt Hawkins or former Emma of WWE, versus Mack Cardon and the mystery partner, which turned out to be Chelsea Green, who this is kind of the first big surprise, not really big surprise. The reason being is kind of had feeling because Chelsea Green and Matt Cardona, they are together, so that kind of makes sense. But because Chelsea Green, she made an appearance at Ring of Honor, Best in the World, the other day, and proclaimed that she was going to put women's wrestling for Ring of Honor back on the map. So that was interesting to show up then, and to show up now here is an interesting. It almost made it a little more surprising than actually was, but nonetheless, this was an okay match. You know that Myers and Cardona, after being longtime tag team partners, they are in this feud for the last number of weeks. But this was okay. So we had a flatliner by Myers on Cardona on the ramp, which weird way to start. And then so was a hot tag to Chelsea Green after a beat up on Cardona. And then a spot by, so it looked like Dashwood, she gave a low blow to Cardona, but I'm not sure if he had something like a cup or something, but it didn't phase Cardona as they showed in the promo, which kind of led up to the spot. So then they got the win here with Cardona and Green hit the jumping on Pradir on Dashwood for the win. Right outcome, I would say. Chelsea Green back, technically, and Impact. Good appearance, did what it needed to do. So, yeah. Then, besides the main event, I would say this was one of, along with the Moose versus Chris Sabin match, but this was the match I was most looking forward to besides the main event. Morrissey, aka the former Big Cass, WWE and NXT, who has looked very much better in Impact with his resurgence as Morrissey. He's undefeated. He looks in great shape. He's practically imposed as a monster in Impact. against Eddie Edwards, who, if you know, Eddie Edwards is a solid veteran. He's been around the block, many places, mostly Impact for the last number of years or so. So this quality match, this was kind of the first upper test for Morrissey and his competition as he progresses up the ladder. Which, when Omega loses that Impact World Championship, I think that Morrissey is going to be the next to take the championship off whoever that babyface happens to be. So, but this was a good match. Was a big boot by Morrissey, which took Edwards off top rope to the outside. Then after they were exchanging and Edwards got the advantage back, was a choke slam by Morrissey off on the apron on Edwards. Then they were fighting on the stage. Morrissey took a back body drop on the rampway, then a Boston Knee Party by Edwards. Then they were back in the ring. Edwards hit a sunset flip powerbomb, followed by a Blue Thunder bomb by Edwards for a near fall. And then a big boot by Morrissey for a 2 count, followed up with a big powerbomb for the win. Morrissey, they say, continues undefeated, and good match. Morrissey, he gets better and better, and that's what you like to see, the progression of one, especially where he was in a dark place. How he looks now is just a good thing to see. So Finjuice, this was short, but they returned to face, I'm not sure what his name is, might be the same, but Shahir and his partner, it was a short but sweet match. They returned to Impact and got the win. Simple. Then we go to Moose versus Chris Sabin. This is an interesting match. I would say now the nostalgia of Chris Sabin, as I mentioned before in the Ultimate X match, took me back because I found out that Chris Sabin was 21 when he debuted in Impact Wrestling, or TNA. And I started watching Chris Sabin since 2006. So that's a bit nostalgia for you there. So kind of figure with this match, power of Moose versus speed of Sabin. So Sabin, he was working on Moose's legs. So then Moose hit a long dart, brutal long dart by Moose to his second turnbuckle. Then big chops by Moose on the outside to Sabin. And then he noticed it, so when he was going for a third chop, he noticed that the crowd was hanging on it. And then he flipped a double bird to the crowd and then followed up with a drop kick to Sabin. So that was a funny spot. Then he followed a slam by Moose. a dive on the outside by Sabin, followed up with tornado DT back in the ring for a near fall. Then a beautiful moonsault press slam by Moose off the top rope. That was a good spot. And then after exchange of pins, Sabin then follows up with a victory roll for the win on Moose. Sabin. And beautifully timed, they had a Hail Sabin sign in the crowd. So Chris Sabin picks up this win over Moose. Interesting. I would definitely like to see another match between these two, that's for sure. So then we get the tag team title match, 4 corners. For the tag team titles, we got Violent by Design. We got Rhino and Monster Joe versus Rich Swann and Willie Mack versus Fallah and with his mystery partner, No Way, as in No Way Jose, from who was in the WWE, that dude who was doing the Congo Lion and WWE, who they didn't do much with. I mean, very strange that he still has his gimmick that he had on the main roster, which they changed from NXT, but strange. Followed up with first the Good Brothers. 4 corners for the tag team titles. This was alright. It could have been better. Most of his match was the Good Brothers' attack on Rich Swann. And then so Rich Swann and Fallah were changing the ring, and then a hot tag to No Way, and then Monster Joe and Luke Gallows, they were colliding. Then a big lariat for a near fall. And after some miscommunication, was a gun stun but cutter by Colin 7 on Rhino, followed up with a magic killer by the Good Brothers for the win. They regain the Impact Tag Team titles. Interesting. But Violent by Design, I like them. I've been following up for a few weeks with them winning the tag team titles. They've been growing on me. Rich Swann, Willie Mack, Rich Swann obviously was the former Impact World Championship or champion who lost to Kenny Omega. Him as a tag team with Willie Mack, you can get behind. So, No Way and Fallah, just strange, but it is what it is. Nonetheless, Good Brothers regain the Impact World Tag Team titles. Then this was kind of where the big magic started to happen. So we had Deonna Purrazo, who I'm still looking at and still wondering how WWE and NXT could not make it work with this woman. I'm just troubling. But so she had a mystery opponent for the Knockouts Championship. And who stepped up? Thunder Rosa. Thunder Rosa, who, as we know, the former NWA Women's Champion, who is on AEW numerous times. She's part of their roster, seemingly. She's in the rankings. She stepped up to face Deonna Purrazo. This was really when everybody who was wondering about the Forbidden Door, about how open is it really? Well, this definitely creeped it open another notch. So this solid match, um, Purrazo, she was working on the arm of Rosa. Rosa followed back with mouse drop kick, a butterfly suplex for a near fall. She had a diving foot stomp to the back of Purrazo for a 2 count. And then Purrazo, she got the win with a gotch style pile driver on Rosa for the win. Afterwards, Mickie James, she came out, returned. Mickie James, the former 2-time Knockouts Women's Champion in Impact, who is, of course, the wife of Nick Aldis, the NWA World Champion, and also she is the EVP kind of NWA Power. So that's another wrinkle of the Forbidden Door. She came out and tried to recruit Deonna Purrazo to appear on NWA. And then Deonna Purrazo, she said, "Take your trash bag and get the hell out of here." Meaning, of course, everyone knows that trash bag incident for WB when someone sent Mickie James her belongings in a trash bag. So, yeah, there's that. So then, the Forbidden Door just keeps opening with this. Thunder Rosa, first of all, busy woman. When she appears on NWA, she appears. Now, she hasn't appeared on AEW Dynamite in a while, but she does appear on AEW Dark and Elevation. So there's that. I believe she's number 3 in the rankings currently. Now she's appeared on Slammiversary for Impact. So that is really just interesting. Deonna Purrazo, again, I will mention. Looking at this match, looking for how she's become an Impact as the Knockout Champion, defeating Ty Valkyrie, who's now Frankie Monet in NXT, defeating Jordan Grace for the title. She's a great wrestler, and she's a beautiful woman. So I don't get how they couldn't have made it work in NXT. I just don't. But nonetheless, that was great segment and a solid match out of the two. So, before I get into the main event, it raises the question of Because Nick Aldis, as we know, was once TNA heavyweight champion. Of course, then he was Magnus. So, do we see potentially Nick Aldis on? Well, this paves the possibility of perhaps Nick Aldis versus Kenny Omega, whether it happens on Impact, but I really hope it's on AEW. I think that opens the door for that possibility. Now we get to the main events. Kenny Omega, who is, the god of pro wrestling, according to Don Callis, versus Sami Callihan, who is sick as they come. Sami Callihan, no DQ for the Impact World Championship. Sami came out. Omega came out, obviously, with all his titles. They were making introductions. And so Callis, he introduced Omega. And then out of nowhere, Callihan ambushes Omega from behind and lands a pile driver off the bat for a near fall. Talk about a surprising way to open the match. But, yeah. It's always start a real match. So, no DQ, you knew this was going to get ugly, especially as Callihan. So, he was throwing weapons around, and then Callihan takes a pizza cutter and starts grinding at the forehead of Kenny Omega. So, that just obviously busts up Kenny Omega. He's busted open. And then Omega, he falls up with a trash can lid to the face of Callihan. And then starts welding on him in the face with wet floor signs and other pans to the head of Callihan, which busts him open. And then Omega lands a "You Can't Escape" on Callihan with the trash can, but on the ankle. He hit Callihan on the ankle with the trash can. So, interesting spot. And then Callihan, he tried using a fork previously in the match. But then Omega then sees it and then uses a fork on the face of Callihan, opens up, and then grinds the mouth of Callihan. So Omega is showing he can be as sick as Sami Callihan. And then, so they were fighting on the outside. Some tables, they were brought out. Callihan, he was pinned under one of the tables, and Omega hit a diving foot stomp off the apron on one of these tables that was pinning Callihan. So then there was a table set up. Omega was going for a Snapdragon on Callihan threw one of these tables, but Omega was countered, and then Callihan hit a pile driver on Omega through this table. Again, good spot. And then there were more weapons set up by Callihan in the ring. There was a plywood or piece of wood barricade in the corner. And then a trash can was set up, but set up where the back of the trash or the bottom of the trash can was set up in the middle of the ring. So Callihan hit a sidewalk slam to Omega on the back or the bottom of this trash can, followed up with a power bomb on this piece of plywood set pinned to the turnbuckle for a nice near fall. And then Callihan saw or found a chair that was wrapped in barbed wire underneath the ring, but it would backfire on Callihan as Omega hit a Katara Crusher and then a power bomb on the barbed wire wrapped chair, followed with a V trigger for a near fall. And then so Omega then went underneath the ring and then threw this bunch of power into Sami Callihan's eyes, which blinded him. And then he, as he was blinded, hit a pile driver on Brian Hebner, who was the referee, because he couldn't see. So then another referee had come in, etc. There was a bunch of weapons set up in the middle of the ring. Omega hit a superplex to Callihan on these weapons. Then Omega, I'm actually surprised this didn't end the match, really. But Callihan hit a tombstone pile driver on Omega on this chair for a near fall. Referees came in, chaos. So then the Impact World Championship was set up in the ring. Sami Callihan went for another pile driver on Omega for a near fall. And then finally, Sami Callihan found a bag of thumbtacks. So they were propped in the middle of the ring. And then Omega grabbed a handful of these thumbtacks, put them in the mouth of Callihan, hit a V trigger on Callihan, and then hit a one-winged angel on Callihan on these tags for the win. Omega retains in a brutal affair. The Good Brothers come out to support Omega, and then all of a sudden the arena gets dark, and then music plays. Switchblade, Jay White, the former New Japan IWGP Heavyweight Champion and current champion and New Japan. He comes out, of course, member of the Bullet Club. he comes out, confronts the Elite, and the Elite put out the too sweet sign to, they offer it to Jay White because the Bullet Club, the Elite, kind of won the same, kind of old school versus new school, the Elite. So, and then talk about a sad way to end Slammiversary. A botch, pretty much. So whoever was in the back, in the truck, they messed up. So it cut away when they still had time left for Slammiversary. We see some guy run to the ring, and then the thing cuts off, the feed cuts off, and then that was it. So then it was reported that after Jay White hits his switchblade finisher on Finjuice, and then White backs out of the ring, and that was how the thing was supposed to end. But nonetheless, heck of Slammiversary with a lot of openings, surprises, particularly as it pertains to Forbidden Door. More possibilities are out there for matches to happen. And a good card. I would say a good card. Some things, excuse me, some of the matches were so and so, but I would say was a pretty solid card in my book. So my first Impact review, Slammiversary. I might do more next time they come to pay-per-view. Got word that Bound for Glory, which is their biggest pay-per-view, will be happening in Las Vegas in October. I'll probably be doing that, considering. But I just thought that, you know, with the card and everything, it's new. It's a refresher for pro wrestling. Be a good episode to cover. So, but nonetheless, good to do. I hope you guys enjoy it. I did as well. If you like this video, again, click the like button as well as subscribe if you want to see more as far as my videos are concerned. But this is a good video today. Thank you. Be safe on the Sunday. Peace. And I'll see you back on Tuesday with sort of topics. So thank you. Peace.